Hello, lawyers and LARPers. My name is TV Skyn, and welcome to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Only took you many years, can't remember how many years. Only took you years, Capcom, to bring this game to the West, you bastards. I have wanted this game for a very long time, or these games, rather, there's two of them. And I have played, I played a fan's translation of the first one, not all the way through. I played through the first case and a half of it, thereabouts, and then I kind of got distracted by other things, but oh, yeah. This is a game that originally came out on the 3DS some years ago in Japan. It's a continuation of the Ace Attorney Chronicle. Well, it's not a continuation. It's a side story prequel sort of thing. Like, it's set in the same universe, basically, in the same kind of gameplay, but it's not a direct continuation. It's a visual novel, which is why Capcom didn't bother to translate it and release it in the West in the waning days of the 3DS, because, I mean, fair enough, from a business perspective, there probably wasn't that much reason to do it, but now they have been persuaded to take it on the Switch with a full HD upgrade, and we can play it now, which I'm quite excited for. So that's what we're gonna do.
The Empire of Japan. After opening its doors, a push for cultural transformation brought great waves of Western influence to this far eastern island nation. The revolution washed over the land, making life in the capital exciting and unsettling. It was a period of great change, and some was swept away by the tide. But for one man, the turbulence of that era was just the beginning of an extraordinary story.
The Adventure of the Great Departure. Bienvenue au Carnaval. Au Carnaval. Right, so let me give you some backstory, or some historical background, rather, because this game is set in the immediate more or less immediate aftermath of the Meiji Restoration in a fictionalized version of Japan after it was forcibly opened. So, very, very long story short, Japan had, due to a number of internal and external cultural circumstances, fear of invasion from mainland China, as well as the need for cultural control by the shogunate in order to maintain their power, had closed the borders of the nation for quite a long time. Now, you can't really close the borders of a nation. Like, people were still trading with the outside world. There were still immigrants were still coming in and stuff, but they were, like, formally banned, and lots of Christians especially got killed, because one of the reasons why Japan closed its doors to the West is because they didn't quite, for some reason, they weren't super fond of the idea that these Christians who were coming over here and selling them guns and stuff also wanted them to serve this faraway imperial master called the Pope, constituted a threat to the authority of the shogunate, and that's one of the reasons why Japan closed its borders. Then, fast forward a few hundred years, the United States, being the United States, in perhaps the most United States decision ever, decided that, hey, this stupid island nation that's sort of to the west of us and is really convenient as a staging post for trade, they're closed. No, we don't want them to be closed. Open up the doors. You can't be closed, so they just sent like a fleet of gunboats to Japan to force them to open their borders, which again, very United States, very America. Led by a Commodore called Matthew Perry, I believe, sailing these big black metal gunboats into the harbor, into Tokyo Bay, I think it was, and just firing his guns and be like, I'm loud and I'm American. You need to talk to me. And the shogunate had a problem there because they didn't have any military technology whatsoever to deal with an 1860s style, like an 1800 style gunboat. Because they had been so isolated for so long, their technology was still not fully stuck on like a completely the same medieval tech level as when the country closed. That's a myth, but it was well behind, and they didn't really have the means to forcibly eject these foreign invaders. And that was kind of a problem for the shogun, because the shogun's whole thing, the name shogun means something along the lines of great general who represses foreign barbarians. Something to that extent. And so the entire justification for the shogun's position was that he kept the country safe from outsiders. And now there's this fleet of American gunboats just hanging out, shooting off guns, refusing to leave, and the shogun seems to be powerless to do anything about them. This is a problem because, like, the whole justification for the shogunate, which at this point is mediated through, like, multiple layers of obfuscation of, like, rulers who rule instead of rulers, it's a problem. It's a big political problem. So eventually, seeing no other option because they can't forcibly eject these people, the shogunate agrees to open a limited amount of the country to the Americans and grant them, like, pretty damn extensive trading rights and immunity from prosecution in Japanese courts. Which, you know, again, kind of a big blow against the authority of the shogunate and a huge problem just for the shogunate in general. And so Japan is forcibly opened. And because of this massive loss of authority on the part of the shogunate, and because of other things, like this long historical process is happening in Japan at this point, but because of that and a bunch of other things, eventually we get what's called the Meiji Restoration, because for hundreds and hundreds of years, Japan has been under the effective rulership of a military commander. It's been a military state, where the shogun, who is the supreme commander of all the armies of Japan, is technically ruling in the emperor's name, but what's effectively happening is that he is the emperor of Japan, and they keep the emperors themselves around mostly as a tool to legitimize whatever hegemony is currently in place. The Meiji Restoration was a sort of attempt to undo the shogunate, and reinstall the emperor on his rightful throne as the leader of Japan, and over the course of that, also a massive push for modernization, because having been humiliated by these foreign invaders, Japan wanted to be damn sure that they could deal with them in the future. Like, they didn't want that threat to their sovereignty because they were kind of hyper-nationalist, which was not unusual for the time, but, you know, still. And they did. The Meiji Restoration was an enormous economic success. It was an enormous success in modernizing their military. And it's also a huge national trauma, in a way, because it's this extreme, like, imagine if you went from, like, the tech level of the 1500s to the tech level of the 1900s, like, over the course of 5 years. It's weird enough. I was born before social media, and it's weird enough just having social media now. I can't imagine what the fuck it's like to, like, all of a sudden have, like, mechanized vehicles driving in the street. It's like a big cultural touchstone for Japan and a huge moment of national transformation. And eventually, the Meiji Restoration is such a success that Japan actually manages to defeat Russia in an actual war, becoming one of the first, like, Eastern Asian nations to soundly, genuinely just completely kick the ass of an imperial power, making Japan an imperial force in the world. And, oh, the screen has gone dark because I've not done anything for a while. Marking their entry onto the world stage, they become active participants in World War I, and then eventually they become active participants in World War II, and, well, we know how that turned out. So that's the background. Japan is undergoing this radical, enormous transformation in the immediate aftermath of a huge national trauma in the sense of, like, having their entire myth of national supremacy overturned by the arrival of these frickin' gunboats, but also a mania, like a rush, an absolute insane cultural desire to absorb the influence and the culture of the outside world and Japanize it. Like, it's to both, like, take whatever advancements are available out there, but also to apply them to Japanese life, to Japanese thinking, to Japanese culture. And you saw that represented in that intro cutscene right there, right now, because you saw people, like, walking around in, like, what are they called? Not yukata, but the robes, the traditional robes, but wearing, like, a Western hat on top of it. You see, like, Japanese architecture side by side with highly European westernized architecture. With, like, there was a huge building boom of just people putting up these, like, westernized buildings with superior architecture. But then, like, in the interior, as you can see in the background on the screen right now, they outfit them in ways that are distinctly aesthetically Japanese. So there's this huge mixing of cultures, and the reason why I bothered to spend 10 minutes giving you this little lecture about the history of Japan is because that shit comes up a lot, at least in the first couple of cases. Like, the bits that I've played already, they do not shut up about this whole, like, this game is very much about a Japanese character reckoning with the change of his country and how to reconcile his country's place in the world now that so many national myths and so many national supremacies have been overturned. Anyway, let's actually read the text that's on screen. 22nd of November, 8:43 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendants, Antechamber 5. So many Phoenix Wright games start here, or in a place like this. Okay, protagonist needs a voice. Needs to be loud, optimistic. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe this is happening. How can it be that just beyond the doors to this quiet little chamber is the highest court in Japan waiting to decide my fate?
What?
Oh, no, nothing.
Save your glares, murderer.
Sorry. My name is Ryunosuke Anaruhodo. I'm a second-year student at the Imperial Yume University. 3 days ago, I somehow found myself in the middle of a horrifying incident. And now, here I am, awaiting my trial. Oh, right. That's enough! He's not obligated to listen to such abuse, officer.
And who are you?
I am this man's lawyer. I'll be defending him today.
Lawyer?
Yes, and until the judge has given his verdict on the case, no one has the right to treat him as a criminal, so you will hold your tongue.
Technicalities. Look at you, you haven't even graduated yet.
And yet, I still seem to know better than you how a court officer should behave. Right, Ryunosuke? Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry. What are you apologizing to me for? Oh, no, I suppose it wasn't my fault. And so, aesthetically, note the way that this guy is designed. He's wearing a uniform that has, like, very Western aspects, but also he's got the headband and a katana. Pay attention to that all over the Japanese sections of this game, because it's everywhere. Oh, no, I suppose that wasn't my fault. But really, Kazuma, I never meant to drag you into this. I'm sorry. There you go again, apologizing. Just like always. Though I must say, you've been all over the newspapers these past few days. Yume University professor murdered in cold blood by student. But obviously, you didn't actually do it, did you? Of course not! You have to believe me! I didn't do it! I could never murder someone. Then there's nothing to worry about. Straighten yourself up. Hold your head high. You mean... I believe you. I know you're innocent, Ryunosuke. Kazuma Azogi, my best friend, also in his second year at Yume University. But he's far more clever than I. A star student, in fact. He's even a qualified lawyer. Impressive, considering he's still an undergraduate. It's not that impressive. The very concept of lawyers is only a few years old here in Japan, anyway. My qualifications don't mean much, yet. You said exactly the same thing 3 days ago. But I'm proud to have a friend like you, Kazuma. Truly. 3 days ago. Yeah, that's when all this started. Congratulations, Kazuma. It looks like you're gonna get to study abroad at last. I know. I've been forever dreaming of this day. Finally, those government elites have acknowledged my academic achievements and success in court. So you'll be representing Japan as you immerse yourself in the most sophisticated legal system in the world. I'm really happy for you. I'm proud as your friend. There's not a soul in the university who doesn't know Kazuma's name. He's a living legend. It's like there's some mysterious aura billowing around his temple. I want to bring about change in our own legal system. That's why I have to cross the ocean to see the real thing with my own eyes. The heart of the British Empire. Oh, the heart of the British Empire. I wish I could see it too. Then come with me. We'd have a wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's City of London together. If only it were that simple. Oh dear. Look at the time. I'd better be going. Alright, I'll see you later. I think I'll stay and enjoy this place a while longer. Good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant like this. See you in English class tomorrow then, partner. It was straight after that. That's when it happened. Asuki, I think this is the female character. May I have a word? Oh, no, it's the dude. Professor, I didn't know you were coming.
Well, this case is personal significance to me. But never mind that for now, Asogi. You should go immediately to the judge's chambers.
To His Excellency's chambers? Why?
He was looking for you before. You advocating for the defense in this trial was a sudden decision. It seems there may be some confusion about procedures today as a result.
Who is this man? I feel as though I've seen him at university before. I see. I'll go at once then. I shall accompany you. All right then, Ryunosuke. I'll see you in the courtroom. Yes. Thanks, Kasuma. This is awkward.
If I may.
Yes, sorry.
You must be the defendant. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
My name is Yujin Mikotaba. I'm a professor of forensic medicine at Jume University.
Ah, Professor Mikotaba. I've heard that name from Kazuma before. As I recall, he's been pushing to get the government to agree to Kazuma studying abroad.
Sogi has told me about you. You and he are best friends, I understand. As such, I feel you should know.
Know what?
Well, as you've no doubt heard, Asogi has been granted permission to go on study in Great Britain. However, if he should fail to defend you in today's trial, I'm afraid that permission will be revoked and never granted again.
What?
As I suspected, you were unaware of this. I had a feeling Masogi may have chosen not to tell you.
He's agreed to defend me, knowing that if he fails, his dreams will be shattered? But I don't understand. Why would the government do such a thing?
The administration has to choose from a large number of applicants for overseas study. It's very difficult to persuade them to grant permission, even in the most favorable of circumstances.
I don't believe it. But I didn't do it. I swear it. I'm not a murderer.
I'm sure that's true. Nevertheless, I can assure you that proving your innocence will be no easy task. You see, there are certain peculiarities about today's trial.
Sorry? What do you mean?
You'll soon understand once proceedings get underway.
You can just tell me now. But then what should I do?
Well, naturally, I'm not going to suggest doing anything that could lead to a conviction.
Right, so,
As soon as the trial starts, the judge will pose a certain question to the defense. When that happens, you must answer before anyone else. You must say, I do.
I do? But what will the question be? Surely not, do you accept the accusations brought before you?
Of course not.
Defendant! Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once.
It would seem our surreptitious discussions are to be cut short. So, allow me to summarize. Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. Of course, as the defendant, the final decision is yours.
What are you waiting for? Do you want to be found guilty for failing to appear? Get moving. There's no point in anyone advocating for the likes of you anyway.
This is it. If this trial goes badly, Kazuma's dreams of studying abroad are over. And what's more, I'll be found guilty of murder. And so, with absolutely no idea what lay ahead, I embarked on that unforgettable trial. My one and only chance of proving my innocence, the trial that would decide my destiny. (22nd of November, 9 a.m., Supreme Court Adjudicature, Courtroom Number 2. So, this is a courtroom. The Supreme Court of Judicature. No court in the land has more power. I don't much like the look of those people sitting in the public gallery. Lots of military and other uniforms in there.
The powers that be have demanded that this be a secret trial.
A secret trial?
A trial that's closed to ordinary members of the public. Only military and government officials may attend.
What? But why?
It'll become clear in time, but for now, you need to concentrate, Ryunosuke. It's about to begin. Hello, Pain.
The court will now hear the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
The prosecution is ready, Your Excellency.
As is the defense.
Before we begin, there's one point of order I'd like to confirm. Yesterday evening, the defense made a last-minute request for a change of advocate.
That's correct, Your Excellency. I made the request myself.
Normal procedures for the defendant's advocacy to be decided 2 days prior to trial. As this is an unusual circumstance, I'm obliged to ask for final confirmation now. Who advocates for the defendant in this trial?
This is it. This must be the question. Who's going to defend me? That's the question the professor meant. But then, if I say I do, I need to answer quickly. What should I do? Obviously.
Your Excellency, no confirmation is needed. As I'm standing here beside the defendant, I hope it's clear that
What's the meaning of this unruly outburst?
I would like to inform the court. Ryunosuke Naruhodo will be defending myself.
You'll be... What?
What are you playing at, Ryunosuke? Professor Mikoto told me everything just now before the trial. He did what? He said that your dreams of studying abroad would be dashed if you were to lose.
How sad. It means you don't have faith in me. You think I won't be able to get you off?
No! It's not that, really. It's just that... Well, on the off chance that things don't go well for me, I couldn't bear to be the reason that you...
Yes. I knew that's how you'd feel. Which is exactly why I decided not to tell you. Professor Mizukoto shouldn't have stuck his nose in.
Very well. The court hereby recognizes the defendant's desire to advocate for himself in today's trial.
Well. He's called Ouchie. And again, note the East-West thing where he's wearing extremely Japanese gear. And he's got a samurai top. I think that's a samurai haircut. I don't fully know, though. Someone who knows more than me might be able to tell you in the comments. But the glasses. My God. The glasses. Which is also part because Winston Payne, who here is called Ouchie. Winston Payne is a recurring character in the Ace Attorney universe. He's always the first prosecutor that you face. And he's always an overconfident blowhard who does that gesture right there. Does the accused admit defeat already? Renouncing his own counsel, really?
Objection!
Make no mistake, counsel. This merely shows that the defendant's innocence is so apparent, he's confident he can speak for himself. Isn't that so, Naruhodo-san?
Huh? Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly what I wasn't thinking. I'm not confident at all. In fact, my mind's a complete blank.
I realize you're in charge now, but still, try not to look so bewildered.
Well, for a mere university student to be brought before the Supreme Court, you must have perpetrated a most heinous crime indeed.
As you're no doubt aware, this is the Supreme Court Adjudicator of Japan. Accordingly, the very highest standards of conduct are expected of all present. Do I make myself clear, Defendant Naruhodo?
Yes, Your Excellency.
It is therefore my duty to assess your competence for the task you have undertaken.
My competence? What does that mean?
He's questioning your ability to do the job.
Well, he can't be questioning it more than I am.
So, let's start with the very simplest of questions.
Oh, yes.
Kindly state before the court the name of the victim in this case.
Well, that's easy enough. I've heard his name more times than I care to remember. But, wait. I'm so nervous I can't even remember that. What was it again? Renosuke. Let me guess. Your mind's gone blank? You know me so well. All the relevant information for this case can be found in the court record. But I can't even find that. It's simple. You can access the court record with a press of R. Okay. It's a list of evidence. So this is just tutorial stuff. But John H. Wilson is the victim in this case. Taketsuchi Auchi. The lead prosecutor in this case would appear to have little love for the changes the Cultural Reformation has brought about. Huh. A medical school professor at Yuma University is an authority in forensic medicine, Kazuma's mentor. A second-year university student, he's my best friend, and despite being a student, a qualified defense lawyer as well. The victim of this case, he was a visiting professor of medicine at Yuma University from the British Empire. Now, you better not keep His Excellency waiting any longer. Go on. Find the victim and the people... Yes, I know.
Yes!
The victim's name was Dr. John H. Wilson.
Well, at least you can remember the name of an esteemed member of your own university.
Dr. Wilson was a visiting professor from England, invited to Yuma University 3 years ago.
He did, which is the reason why this case has such profound implications. The British Empire is at present our country's most valuable foreign ally. And as most of you will be aware, we have just signed a new treaty together after lengthy negotiations.
There can't be anyone who hasn't heard of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation.
And yet, despite these delicate circumstances, the blood of an Englishman has been spilt on our soil. You two are both undergraduates at the Imperial Yuma University, are you not? Murdering a professor from the very institution that provides your education. Have you no honor? I didn't do it.
This case is coming under great scrutiny from our allies on the other side of the world. The court, therefore, wishes for a speedy resolution to this matter.
In other words, our feeble government is scared of upsetting England's policymakers. And you're a convenient and expendable scapegoat to blame for this crime. So that's why this trial has these unusual peculiarities, is it? Exactly. Our government needs to convict someone as quickly as possible. All because the victim was an Englishman. So, remember that little lecture I gave at the start? Yeah, here you see it coming into play. The problem that Japan has being that it can't, at this point in time, reasonably challenge any outsiders, which means that it becomes a victim to a great extent of colonization, which is part of the reason why they're so desperate to build their national power and establish independence, is because, well, they have seen, like, they can see how imperial powers behave towards other parts of the world that they have technological superiority over, and they don't like it, justifiably and understandably so. And so Japan is politically desperate to make themselves independent of Western powers, or at least make themselves equal to them, as fast as possible, to avoid becoming essentially a colonized slave state to the great empires. Yeah, Dr. Wilson was an Englishman. But nationalities and treaties won't make any difference for me here. The fact is, I was there at the scene of the crime. Oh dear, look at the time. I better be going. Alright, I'll see you later. I think I'll stay and enjoy this place a little longer. Good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant like this. See you in English class tomorrow then, partner. The British Empire. Wow, it's incredible to think... Wait. I've seen that man in university. I'm sure he's a visiting professor from Great Britain. I don't know his name, but still, I should go and say hello. So I went over to the professor's table and introduced myself to Dr. Wilson.
Now then, let me pose my next question to you, Defendant Naruhodo.
Yes, Your Excellency.
How did this professor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson, lose his life? State before the court the cause of death.
The cause of death? Well, obviously that was, We're supposed to go here. It's blood loss from a gunshot to the chest. Ryunosuke, remember that in court, every assertion must be backed up by evidence. By evidence? But how? Find the evidence that's... Bonk. There we go. Well... According to this document, the victim suffered a hemorrhagic death due to gunshot trauma. I love his little animation here. Like, shifting through the papers, looking back and forth. There's so many little movements. And this is something that, like, they've done, like, Playframe, or New Frame Plus, has a great video on the animation of the Phoenix Wright games, and they've done such a good job of translating, like, the highly stylized, extremely expressive animation that characterizes the Phoenix Wright games, and, like, that style of visual novel into 3D with these games. Like, look at how expressive that is, like, how live and mobile it is. Even when, like, most of the time when you see the characters, they are static. Like, they're not moving the vast majority of their body, but then they have these little looping animations like this one that just bring them to life in such a good way. And you get a sense of his personality, right? Like, if you were to know nothing else about Ryunosuke whatsoever, you kind of get a sense of, like, who he is. Just from looking at this, like, just from looking at the way he's behaving, right? Like, you get a sense of who this person is, what he's like, what the energy of the person is. This is so good.
Lend a read, you imbecile. That's the post-mortem report, I take it. Sorry, yes, that's right. The post-mortem report.
In the West, a doctor dissects corpses to identify the cause of death in an autopsy. But here in Japan, the police officer merely inspects the body and draws conclusions that way. Oh, I see. As long as I'm not going to be tested on any of this later.
This is a so-called photographic print of the scene of the crime. You can clearly discern scorch marks around the bullet hole produced by the powder explosion. In other words, we should assume that the victim was shot at close range.
Thank you, counsel. The court will accept this modern scientific evidence into the record.
Photographic print of the victim has been entered into the court record. Photographic print that shows the victim he was shot from the front in the chest and subsequently died. So that's a photographic print. Well, that's something I've never seen before. It's clearly superior to a drawing. The detail is incredible.
Very well. I'm satisfied with your answers. Let us start the trial.
Certainly, Your Excellency. So, without further ado, in order to better apprise the court with the facts of the case, the prosecution hereby calls its first witness, who was there at the scene of the crime when it happened.
This is it, then? Huh. I think I may have worked out what the professor had in mind.
The professor? You mean Dr. Mikotoba?
Yes. Clearly, you're the defense lawyer today, not me, but that doesn't mean... Well, I can still act as your assistant.
Ah, of course. When he was speaking with me before, he simply said, Kazuma Azoge must not be the defense lawyer in this trial.
Huh. He really has been sticking his oar in, hasn't he?
Maybe, but any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated, Kazuma.
Well, my first piece of advice is rein in that crazy look of bewilderment and control the cold sweats.
Only if you rein in that crazy headband and control the cold stares first. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court, please.
Oh, of course. My name is Satoru Hosonaga. I'm the head waiter at a Western-style restaurant called Le Carnival.
Are you alright? You seem to be coughing up some,
It's a regular occurrence. It really doesn't bother me.
Well, it really should. As everyone knows, the capital's southeastern quarter was developed for foreign visitors some years ago. It's become a very fashionable district now, full of hotels to accommodate overseas guests. This grim crime occurred in one of the district's so-called restaurants, an Occidental eatery, 3 days ago.
Understood. Ozanaga-san, you will kindly tell the court everything you can about the incident.
At once, sir.
And no petty interjections from the aspiring lawyer boy, please. Oh, perspiring maybe, but aspiring?
It was just after 2 p.m. on the day in question. We have few diners at that time of day. The lunch time rush was over, and there was only 3 tables still occupied.
That fits with my memory of it, too. There was hardly anyone else in the place.
It was when I was in the kitchen, putting away crockery and cutlery. A gunshot rang out, so I hurried out to the dining area to see what had happened. I found the victim, an English gentleman slumped in his chair. Standing immediately beside him, gun in hand, was the accused university student.
Hold on. Let me just clarify something here. While I did pick up a gun that I found lying on the floor beside the professor, I didn't shoot him. I believe I asked you to refrain from petty interjections. The court wishes to listen to the witness's report of what you saw. He saw, you amateur. But
The next time you interrupt at an inappropriate time, you will be penalized, Defendant Naruhodo.
Don't worry, Ryunosuke. You'll have your chance to fight back. For now, we must quietly listen to the witness.
if I may confirm one point, waiter. Standing beside the victim with a gun in his hand was the same man we see here in court today?
Yes, without question.
I see. And apart from the accused, was there anyone else standing beside the victim?
No. There was no one else around that table but the deceased Englishman and the university student.
Huh? Wait, what did he just say? There was no one else around that table?
What's the matter, Ryunosuke?
That's just not right. When I went over to Dr. Wilson to say hello, there was a woman sitting opposite him at his table.
Really?
And that's not something the waiter could have missed. I've been warned about interjecting, but still, what should I do? Yes! Just a moment, please. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone that day. I'm sure of it. There was a lady sitting with him at the same table. Dear me. What are we going to do with you? With your blatant disregard for court proceedings, I'm beginning to wonder if you're not a fraud. Could it be that the accused, this mere student, is not a real lawyer after all? But I'm sure of what I saw.
Ozanaga-san, is there any chance you're mistaken? Perhaps your memory of events is hazy? No. The deceased gentleman came to dine alone.
I don't believe it.
I actually have a rough plan of the restaurant as it was that day. Please, have a look if you'd like to.
Let me see. A sketch of the establishment's layout. Drawn by yourself, I presume?
That's right. I'm afraid I used the back of my business card. It was a turbulent situation. However, as you can see, the gentleman in question was seated alone.
Well, you're clearly a very conscientious waiter.
Thank you, sir.
The court will take this plan and add it to the court record as evidence.
Well...
Is there a problem? Hand the plan to the court officer at once.
Of course. Here you are. What was that about? He's been completely calm and collected until now.
Something certainly seems to have shaken him.
A sketch of the restaurants. Okay, let's just get past that coughing. Enough. That's unpleasant. Like in COVID times, that's an unpleasant sound.
So, the court has now heard a precise of the case.
Yes, at the moment the gunshot was heard in the restaurant, the only person in close proximity to the victim was the defendant on trial today. It would seem we're looking at a black and white case here. Defendant Naruhodo,
Yes, Your Excellency?
if you admit your guilt at this stage, the court is willing to look mercifully upon you.
In other words, you may have some small reprieve in terms of your inevitable punishment. I called this waiter as an unsworn witness in order to explain the details of the case to court. But I must warn the defense, if you are determined to pursue matters further in this trial, the prosecution has decisive evidence from sworn witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime. What do you think I should do, Cosmo?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm gonna be found guilty one way or another, it seems. Wouldn't it be sensible to plead guilty at this stage and hope for a more lenient sentence? Everyone keeps telling me that this trial is unusual about these peculiarities. You said it, Professor Mikotoba said it, and so has the court and the judge and the prosecution. I'm scared of what lies ahead if I push this.
As I said from the outset, I believe you're innocent. I trust you. And yet, despite knowing that, you're willing to now throw that trust back in my face? Is that it?
What?
If the accused is in fact innocent, then a defense lawyer is duty-bound to prove that innocence by whatever means necessary. Are you just gonna abandon that duty? Are you gonna give up on yourself? The battle hasn't even begun yet, Ryunosuke. The defense pleads not guilty, Your Excellency. We invite the prosecution to stop making empty threats and bring out its witnesses. Then we'll see just how decisive this evidence really is.
Indeed. Prosecutor Ouchie. Please continue with proceedings.
Well, you were warned. The young can be so reckless. You know, many call me a saint, but I can be a devil when I want to be. In a few short moments from now, that dumbstruck young mouth of yours will be silenced forever. The prosecution calls its next witness.
Very well. Officer, bring forth the witness at once.
Oh, the witness says.
Witness says, kindly state your names and occupations for the court.
Yes, sir. The Great Nippon Imperial's Army Sergeant Yesanoza.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Yesanoza reporting for duty, sir.
Myself, I find employed as a purveyor of fine articles of antiquity from the efflorescence of our nation, Nippon, and conduct my trade from Rasute, a humble premises in the 2nd District, Kuroteka, at your service.
Oh, Korakutaka. Korakuta. Curio caretaker, I think, is the pun there.
An antique dealer and a soldier. What an unusual pairing.
Both of these gentlemen were present at the restaurant on the day in question.
They must be the diners at the other tables that waiter mentioned.
Myself, I habitually take tea of the most exquisite aroma at the establishment in question, always post-noon, and not infrequently converse with interested parties regarding the curios with which I make my business. I can't understand a word that old man is saying.
He's an antique dealer, and it sounds like he's a regular La Carnival. He seeks out potential customers who may have an interest in antiques and tries to sell his wares to them. He obviously targets La Carnival because it's a high-class restaurant with rich clientele. Right, I see. Although, to be honest, that sergeant looks more like he'd be a seller rather than a buyer.
Now, you both witnessed the precise moment of this most atrocious incident. Is that correct?
Affirmative. The enemy unit was seen attacking the foreigner in what can only be described as an act of war, sir. It was that black uniformed rogue infantryman over there who unloaded his firearm, sir.
This man's as impossible to understand as the other. But I'm almost sure I heard a strange noise during that last thing he said.
So, this is the decisive evidence that prosecution was threatening. The soldier is claiming that he actually saw the precise moment you shot the victim dead.
Yeah.
Well, are you starting to feel uncomfortable?
If I'm honest, I was feeling uncomfortable from the start.
Now, the court will hear your formal testimony, please. You will state everything you saw at the precise moment that the incident occurred. Sir, yes, sir. Standing by ready to report, sir.
Unsavory memories of a most disturbing afternoon.
Again, the animations. Like, the contrast between the soldier and the antique deal, like the way they're animated, he's like all snappy salutes and like pointing at things and like arms outstretched, and then the old man is more like sort of slow, kind of glides around and like, oh yes, very like you. Again, it's like it's basic animation, but it's so good.
I was ingesting a regulation beef steak at the restaurant while having a tactical discussion with the old man.
Myself, I was extolling the virtues of a particularly fine golden curio to the military gentleman.
At that precise moment, a firearm was discharged. I observed the enemy's actions with my own eyes. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian, and from the back, the cowardly little weasel.
I was on my hands and knees, investigating the whereabouts of my mysteriously absconded precious curio.
Well, so you, Sergeant, no, sir, actually witnessed the vital moment. You saw the split second when the defendant fired the weapon at the victim. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. That wicked university cadet, sir. The cruel and unforgivable enemy.
Times we live in, when an English gentleman may be assailed in the broad light of day.
But this is just ridiculous. I didn't shoot anyone. Is that really true, Ryunosuke?
Yes, all I did was pick up the gun I saw lying on the floor. After I'd said hello to Dr. Wilson, I went back to my table and sat drinking some coffee. Then, when I'd finished, I got up from my seat to leave the restaurant when I noticed an English-made gun next to the chair where the professor was sitting. I thought perhaps the professor had dropped it. So I bent down just as I was picking it up.
Well, if that's the truth, there was obviously a criminal on the scene somewhere. And somewhere in these two witnesses' testimonies, there's a clue as to who that criminal was.
There is?
Ryunosuke, you must exercise your right to cross-examine the witnesses.
Cross-examine?
Do it now.
As we heard, Your Excellency, there's no room for doubt in the testimony of these witnesses. The defendant is clearly guilty. It is time to bring this despicable student to justice.
Certainly. The testimony of the court has just heard eliminates any vestige of doubt. Therefore, it is my grave duty to... What in the name of the Emperor is the meaning of this outburst?
The defense demands its right to cross-examination. Dear me, dear me. Let me guess. The Hachimaki headband boy next door told me to do it. How pathetic. Huh? How did he know? The prosecution objects. This is a clear waste of time. The defendant obviously has no experience. How can he possibly carry out a cross-examination?
Objection!
The defense is asserting its right to a cross-examination. Whether or not you think he's capable of it is irrelevant. Kasuma's so commanding. Ryunosuke, do you have a little crush there? Do you have a tiny, itty-bitty, little man crush there, maybe? Just a little bit?
Very well. Let the defense conduct a cross-examination of the witnesses.
All right. This is where the battle really begins, Ryunosuke.
But I don't even know what I have to do in a cross-examination.
Isn't it obvious? You have to expose the lies in the witnesses' statements.
How?
You didn't fire the gun, which means that what that soldier said has to be a lie.
Well, yeah, but...
It's just a case of proving it. And the key to doing that is evidence.
Right. evidence.
All you need to do is present some decisive and indisputable evidence that proves the witness is lying. Now, let's go, Ryunosuke. Don't let them beat you. Slap. He gets the big boom and then slap. All right, then. It's all or nothing. And now we get into the meat of the actual gameplay of this game. So, we get all the statements that we heard before, and he has made the mistake of saying that we shot him from behind. Well, it says that here in the photograph that he was shot from the front. So...
Yes!
What? What are you playing at, cadet? What is the meaning of this subordination? Thrusting some photographic print in my mustache? Inconsistency, sir. I mean, yes. There's a clear inconsistency here.
What nonsense? What can this print possibly tell us that we don't already know?
Well, obviously, I know what I want to say, but the words just won't come out of my mouth.
I think this proves beyond any doubt, Your Excellency, that there's no place for an amateur student here in this grand courtroom.
This is so frustrating. Oh, please. Surely this doesn't require an explanation. It couldn't be more plain. To spell it out would be an insult to the court.
Kasuma? What are you talking about?
It's apparent from a single glance at the photographic print presented by the defense that there's a clear discrepancy here with the sergeant's statement.
What?
Sergeant, yes sir, no sir. Yes sir, what sir? The statement you just made was this. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian and from the back, the cowardly little weasel. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. I witnessed the crime with my own military-grade eyes, sir.
Yes!
But no, that just can't be.
And why not, cadet?
Because...
Take a close look at the print. The victim, Dr. Wilson, died from a bullet wound to the chest. Sergeant, according to your witness statement, the culprit shot the victim from behind. And that is the obvious discrepancy here. Well, how do you explain it?
What was that? Something just popped up from behind his back and he pushed it down again.
Certainly, there's a clear discrepancy with the facts here.
Would you not agree, Sergeant Nosa? Yes, sir. At this juncture, that would appear to be indisputable. Until the moment I heard the firearm discharge, my eyes were firmly fixed on the delicious La Carnival steak, sir.
What?
The last testimony the court heard has proven one thing beyond all reasonable doubt. This witness, Sergeant Yes Sir No Sir, did not see the defendant firing a gun at all.
That's absurd.
I think the conclusion we must draw is simple. There is no place for an amateur prosecutor here in this grand courtroom. There's been a complete turnabout in the mood of this trial. Just from that one discrepancy. So this is what being an ace attorney is all about. Yeah, Kasuma fucks. Like, clearly. But I definitely saw him. That university cadet there, he was pointing the firearm directly at the victim's back.
Yes!
But I never fired the gun. All I did was pick it up off the floor.
And you, old man, You didn't see the moment the victim was shot either?
Myself, I have already been quite clear. The gunshot interested me not. I was far too busy on the floor. Too busy on the floor? Sorry, what were you doing? Hunting for treasure.
Treasure.
Indeed! The Hoya Kuban, my prize coin! On each occasion when I visit that restaurant, it is my habitude to place in my bosom pocket a particular trinket of interest from my shop, Rasute.
In the hope of meeting a rich diner who might like to buy it from you?
On the day under scrutiny, it was to the military man that I proffered my Hoey treasure. Believe that he would purchase such a rare find, I did not, but I was presented with a little alternative. And then, after averting my eyes for the briefest moments, it was there no more. It simply vanished. The Koban vanished. Hunting around under the table, I was, in case mayhap it had fallen there. And then it happened.
You heard the gunshot, you mean?
Indeed I did, but I heeded it not, for I was concerned only with finding my absconded hallway treasure. Nothing could distract me.
Out of interest, did you find the coin in the end?
No.
Ah, I see.
That lamentable day, the precious Hoy Koban was lost to me. No doubt some unscrupulous scoundrel pocketed the prize coin for himself.
Well, he seems to have a suspicion.
As I'm sure everyone present is aware, this case demands a swift and decisive resolution. Our government has promised to send a full report to Great Britain by telegraph this very afternoon.
Nevertheless, the witness testimony the court has just heard was inconclusive. No matter how subservient our government feels it must be to the British, it would be unforgivable to deliver a verdict on this trial right now.
What is your position, Professor Outchit?
Prosecutor Aichi.
Worry not, Your Excellency. The defense may have fled a tiger at the front gate, but he will find a wolf at the back. My witnesses have further testimony to make.
Explain.
Upon hearing their next statements, it will become abundantly clear that there is only one person who could possibly have committed this despicable crime. Equally despicable defendant Ryonosuke Naruhodo. What?
He really seems to have a despicable opinion of you, doesn't he?
Very well. The court invites the witnesses to testify again. You will thoroughly explain the reasoning behind the prosecution's allegation. Is that clear?
As clear as Kiriko glass, Your Excellency.
Yes, sir. At once, sir. Awaiting signal to testify, sir.
Excuse me, but there's something or someone peeking out over your shoulder, I think.
Affirmative. The newest member of the Nosa family to rise up through the ranks, sir. Name, Ido.
I do, sir. Huh, it would seem those straps are the sign of a sergeant being too strapped to afford a nanny.
Ido, attention! Your father is about to quell the enemy. Watch and learn, my boy. Even if what I saw wasn't the precise moment the firearm was discharged, it's almost the same thing.
Yes, pointing his gun at the foreign man, he was that young lad in black. That much I myself did see.
Furthermore, a visual search of the premises at the time confirmed that we were the only personnel present.
Indeed. Alone he was, the Englishman, dining all by himself.
Therefore, no one other than the black uniformed cadet could have dispatched the Englishman. Over and out.
This testimony is certainly compelling.
Wait, that's nonsense. The victim, Dr. Wilson, wasn't alone at all. Yes, enough of these outbursts already. But there was a woman. There was a young woman at his table. You must have seen her. Everyone must have seen her. Objection! If you call yourself a lawyer, then you will respect the rules of the court and speak accordingly. We're not here to listen to your fantasies. It is evident beyond all reasonable doubt that the victim was alone at the time of the incident. The prosecution has photographic evidence of this fact.
Is this a photographic print of the scene of the crime, counsel?
Indeed. Of the table at which the victim was dining, taken by an investigator immediately after the incident. As can plainly be seen, there's only one place set.
Certainly, based on the appearance of this print. It would be reasonable to conclude that the victim was not in the company of anyone else.
This doesn't make any sense.
The court will add this new photographic evidence to the record.
A bottle of carbonated water and a steak lunch can be seen on the victim's table.
I don't understand. What's going on here?
It's just not possible that nobody else saw that woman. The waiter before said the same thing. He maintains that Dr. Wilson came to the restaurant alone as well.
But that's not true. I saw her. I swear that I saw a woman with him.
It will seem that we'll be able to telegraph the report to Great Britain on time after all. The witness testimonies we've just heard leave no further room for doubt.
These are very sensitive political times, as we all know. The ink is still fresh on the treaty with Great Britain. To think that I, Taketsuchi Auchi, will have contributed to the amity between these two great empires is an honor. How can this be happening? The judge is ready to rule.
Stand tall, Ryunosuke. It's not over yet.
What?
If what you say is true, then there's something going on here behind the scenes. And now's your chance to expose it, to draw out the truth in your cross-examination.
I don't know, Councilman.
The defense is entitled to cross-examine the witnesses, but make it quick, understood?
Rules can be so unbending at times.
Let's get their ass!
Let's see. I think this is one we're supposed to just go through. What do you think, Ryunosuke? What's the matter?
I can't find anything. I can't find a clear discrepancy anywhere. I'm done for. I can't win this trial. Oh, no.
Listen, the first thing to do is calm down. You can't expect witness statements to be full of holes every time. So just take your time and try to tease more information out of them first.
What do you mean?
You can choose to either press or present against each of the witnesses' statements. If a witness is saying something you're suspicious about, press them. With a little luck, you'll may get more details, which could prove to be crucial.
Right, I see.
The important point is, there's no sense in holding back. If anything, even slightly jars with you, press the witnesses on it and press them hard.
All right, got it. I'll press them like blocks of tofu. The professor wasn't alone in the restaurant, I'm sure of it. In one way or another, this cross-examination is going to prove I'm right.
There we go. Needed to unlock the press option.
Yes! No. It's not the same thing at all. For a start, I didn't fire that gun.
We have a difference of opinion on that. The opinion of a uniformed officer versus that of a fledgling cadet.
I don't think so. Consider this, defendant. Just a moment ago, I blinked. Did you? Did you see it? Did you see me blink? How could I? And yet, it's an undeniable fact that I did blink. So there you have it. Have what?
And shut! The sound of the firearm rang in my ears, and at the very next moment, I saw you waving the gun at the Englishman.
I think that says it all, don't you? Let us not forget that the antiques dealer witnessed the accused in this most incriminating position as well. Isn't that so, Kuratuka-san?
Korakuta, rather.
Yeah?
So, pointing at the gun at the foreman, he was that young man, black. Cool. Visual search. Okay, so let's press on the... there was no one else there.
You must have noticed someone else at Dr. Wilson's table. There was a lady there. As you have been at pains to point out time and again, I feel I'm growing a callus in my ear. And yet, no one else appears to have caught even a glimpse of this woman. If only there'd been more people dining there at the time.
Unfortunately, it was already past 2 p.m. when it happened. The quiet time between lunch and dinner in any restaurant.
I know, of course, the place was almost empty.
It's what you expect.
Certainly. 2 p.m. is neither here nor there in terms of time to eat. I wonder if there was a reason why the victim was eating at the time of day, and why he was alone.
Yes, Your Excellency, there was indeed a reason. There was. This was found in the victim's jacket pocket.
What is that, Counsel?
It is a medical report card, Your Excellency. It would seem that the victim had an appointment at a clinic prior to visiting the restaurant.
Hotter clinic, yes. There would indeed appear to be an entry for the date in question. 19th November, noon to past 1 p.m.
The very day of the incident.
Well, the victim went for a late lunch following his appointment. That explanation couldn't be more simple. The prosecution felt no need to submit this evidence before, as it really has no bearing on the case.
I wonder. What do you think, Ryunosuke?
Huh? Well, it's hard to see how it could be related, really.
Remember, you can request for it to be entered into the court record as evidence if you think it could be useful.
Yeah.
More evidence, good. Less evidence, bad. If I may, I'd like to ask for that medical report card to be submitted as evidence, Your Excellency.
On what grounds? Court has already heard conclusive witness testimony. Additional evidence would be extraneous. Not to mention that the victim's movements prior to his arrival at the restaurant are of no concern.
Objection!
Whether or not they're of concern is up to us to decide. We have a right to explore all possible avenues.
I beg your pardon?
You have no authority to refuse a perfectly valid request for the submission of evidence.
Very well. The court will grant the defense's request.
Youngsters these days are forever asserting their rights. It's a most disturbing trend.
Officer, kindly add the victim's medical report card to the court record.
Let's have a look at that. What we need right now is new clues. We have to explore things from every possible angle, even if they don't seem relevant at first.
Right, I hear you. Huh, you can conspire to prolong this trial as much as you like, but it's the day after the festival already for you. Or perhaps you'd forgotten that these witness testimonies leave no room for doubt. Feel free to reiterate for the accused, Korakuta-san.
Let's see. Hello. Can I not examine it? I feel like I remember examining it. But no? Okay. Well,
Yes!
we'll just keep pressing things then.
So you actually saw that with your own eyes, did you? The victim, Dr. Wilson, dining alone? That I did. Forgive me for the position I placed you in. So, the testimony of the old man, the soldier, and the waiter all agree on that point. Isn't it interesting? And let us not forget the incontestable evidence that we have to support their statements as well. As can clearly be seen, there's only a single beefsteak on the victim's table, a meal for one.
No. The antique stealer, the sergeant, and the waiter who testified before. It's not impossible that they're all lying. But if so, then why? If I'm perfectly honest, I have absolutely no idea. Okay. Let's see the court record. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that seems concurrent. Oh, magnifying glass, you say? Does that do anything? Not a lot, I think. And I'm not seeing any discrepancy between the two photographs either. And that's the waiter's business card. Okay.
Yes! Why aren't you telling the truth?
What? What did you say, Cadet?
I clearly remember. There was a woman sitting across the table from the professor. Perhaps one of you might not have noticed. But for both of you to have failed to see the professor's dining companion, it's just not possible.
Unfortunately for you, Defendant Naruhodo, it's not just a case of these two witnesses alone.
Sorry?
The waiter, whose testimony the court heard earlier, clearly stated the same thing. He also said that the victim was alone.
That's right. Precisely. In other words, you are the sole proponent of this phantom lady. But if such a woman were indeed present at the scene, the prosecution demands to see proof. And if no such proof exists, the prosecution demands that no further mention of this phantom woman to be made. It is a blatant waste of the court's time. There's nothing I can say to that.
Excellent work, Reneske. We've gleaned some new information now.
Well, yeah, but I don't feel like it changes much. I can't see that it brings any real discrepancies to light.
I wouldn't be so sure. Let me see that medical report card you got before.
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah, this is a brand new piece of evidence. So perhaps you should examine it in a little bit more detail.
How exactly?
Yes, okay, go into the thing, magnifying glass. We already did that. Rotate evidence. Look at it. Point out things. Check it. Yes, I know. I get it. I got it. Just let me do it. Leave me alone.
I can't examine it yet.
There we go. La-da-da-dee.
It looks like this medical report card was first issued some time ago.
It's probably a record of long-term treatment. That's why. With a family doctor, I imagine.
Well, I can't imagine. Going to a doctor, I mean. As long as I'm alive, I'm never consulting one.
Well, if you were dead, there'd be no point. So you don't like doctors then?
Why would you? They make you drink horrible tasting medicine. They give you painful injections. And then they demand a lot of money from you for the privilege. All when you're at your lowest ebb.
You sound like a model patient. With a bad case of stubbornness, no less, for which the only cure is very bitter medicine indeed. Okay, so we'll examine that thing. Yeah. Open it up! Ooh. Let's see. Let's have a look. This is some kind of medical history. Ah, and this is an entry for the day the professor was killed. Extraction of molar with topical anesthesia.
Extraction of molar? You mean he had a tooth taken out?
It would seem so. Just before the incident, he'd had a bad tooth removed. Perhaps they used laughing gas. That's the modern practice in the West for pain relief.
Yeah, I've heard of this anesthesia. Although it's hard to believe there's anything that can actually stop you feeling pain.
Ah, there's a cautionary note from medical practitioner as well. Strictly no food or drink besides water for 3 hours post-procedure until anesthetic effects have passed.
Really?
Sounds like information worth bearing in mind.
Oh. With this new information, the meaning of that one particular statement totally changes.
Yep, we should listen to that testimony again. So I think it's dining all by himself. That's the statement. Here's hoping. Sometimes in these games, it's a little bit of a crap shot where you're supposed to present the evidence that you have.
Well, I think, What are you wittering about, lad? Call yourself a lawyer? I wish I could, but first and foremost here, I'm the accused.
Ryunosuke, everyone stumbles in their words occasionally. Under the circumstances, I wouldn't worry about it.
Thanks, Kazuma.
I could see it quite clear in that cross-examination you just carried out. When you raised your hand straight up like that, it's so purposefully. You knew exactly what it was you wanted to say. Don't feel like you have to choose your words carefully. Just say what you're thinking.
All right, and thanks for the advice.
Boyfriends.
Korakuda-san, this is a medical report card belonging to the victim.
Ah, I see. And I don't see. What of it, boy?
Comparing what is written on this report card with your witness statement. Still can't do it. Something clearly doesn't add up.
Dear me. Have you forgotten my words so soon, you amateur? Sorry, what? You are not to interrupt court proceedings with your amateurish drivel. But let's see if I can explain in words you might understand. It was after 2 p.m. in the afternoon when the victim was murdered at the restaurant. Whatever he may or may not have done before that time is completely irrelevant. But that's,
Remember, Ryunosuke, you don't have to use clever language or fancy words. Just make your point.
Your Excellency, I believe we're finished here. There's surely no need to prolong this trial further. The witness testimonies the court has heard have been clear and concise. This medical report card has no bearing on the matter at all, for the simple reason that there is no one else besides the pale-faced pupil who could...
This medical report card has nothing to do with the case? Do you really believe that?
What? That outburst half petrified me, boy. Of course I believe it. How could it possibly be relevant?
Perhaps because Hotter Clinic, which issued the report card, is a dental clinic.
A dental clinic? Is that supposed to mean something to me?
Perhaps if I told you that the victim had just had a tooth extracted?
What's this now?
And furthermore, if I told you that as a result, the victim had been forbidden from eating.
Just what are you trying to say, cadet? He had orders not to eat, so what?
Well, it's all written up in here. No food or drink other than water for 3 hours post-procedure while anesthesia wears off.
What? No, that can't...
Kuda-san.
What, boy? What?
As you just heard, when he was killed sometime shortly after 2 p.m., the victim couldn't have been eating anything at all. Additionally,
There's more.
you have assured the court with unwavering self-confidence that the victim was dining alone. But that cannot possibly be the case. Because the victim, as we now know, had just one of his teeth extracted and was still experiencing the effects of the anesthetic. Expertly done, partner.
What is this nonsense? You little upstart! These are baseless accusations. Just look at this photographic evidence. You can clearly see the plate of food at the victim's table.
Objection!
Use your head. That's the very discrepancy we're talking about. Or can't you follow the logic?
How dare you?
I think it's fair to say that the tables in this restaurant case have turned. Wouldn't you agree, Ryunosuke?
Huh? Yeah, most definitely.
So, having just undergone some dental surgery, the victim was unable to eat. Which leaves one very crucial conundrum. Who, in fact, was eating the pictured beef steak? The court will hear the opinion of the defense on this new puzzle. I assume you're ready, counsel.
Counsel? Oh, that means me, doesn't it? All right. The answer to this question is going to be pivotal. This is the start of your turning the trial around. Show them what you're made of.
Got it.
The person eating the steak at the victim's table must have been...
Obviously, it can only have been someone else who was sitting at the professor's table.
Objection!
You will not let this go, will you? There was no such person.
Yes!
There was, because I saw her.
When the incident occurred, we know that the victim couldn't have been eating anything. Yet we have evidence of a half-eaten steak on his table. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is there was somebody else there eating it. We have strong evidence to support our assertion. It's clear that these witness testimonies are unreliable. If the court decides to push through a ruling at this stage, we will lodge a formal complaint with the Ministry of Justice and pursue a fair retrial, relentlessly.
Kazuma? Are you insane? You would take on the government?
Don't worry, Counsel. I have no issue with you.
What do you mean?
I have issue with them, the two witnesses in the stand.
What?
What are you talking about? We have demonstrated with evidence that the victim was not alone. So, if it now turns out that the two of you deliberately lied when giving your testimonies, obviously you will be charged with perjury.
Perjury?
And, since this is a murder trial, you will also be deemed complicit in the killing.
Complicit? In murder? No!
Negative! There was no mention of this at the tactical meeting. I was just following orders.
That's right, as the man said. Just say you never saw the gentlewoman. That's what they told us. Oh. What? What did you just say, Korakuda-san? No. You were just following orders? Hold on, lad. I was...
Say you never saw the gentlewoman. When you say gentlewoman, do you mean you saw the victim with a lady from overseas?
What?
Objection!
What's the meaning of all this? These witnesses gave false statements? If this true, you pair?
Just one simple slip of the tongue.
Order! Order! Counsel, explain what's going on here.
It's painfully clear now. You tried to prevent these witnesses from telling the truth.
Absolutely not. The prosecution knows nothing of this. Then who's behind this? Who tried to make you keep your mouth shut?
Well, that's classified. So, you're prepared to be tried as a conspirator to this murder, are you?
You wouldn't... This can't be happening.
Ryunosuke, judging from the way they're reacting to this, I'd say they were sworn to silence by someone with considerable influence. However, I don't believe Ouchi had any idea about it.
What are you saying? I mean, to wield that kind of influence, there are only a handful of possibilities. It could only have been the government, the military, or the police, I suppose.
Well, any ideas about who it might be behind this? If we can affirm who tried to silence these witnesses, then we can continue our pursuit.
So, we need to name whoever it was that tried to make the witnesses keep their mouths shut?
Of course, we'll need evidence before we make any firm accusations. Evidence that proves that whoever really did this did wield his or her power here. I think I got that line wrong.
But how? How can we possibly...
Remember how we made progress before?
Before?
We examined this piece of evidence in more detail and found a new clue as a result.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's not the only piece of evidence we have, is it? We need to re-examine everything and make sure there's nothing we've missed. There's no time to lose. Okay, and I know which piece of evidence we're examining here. Oh, Chief Inspector. Huh. Well, that's unexpected.
What is?
Look, you see it says the witness's name here? Satoru Hosonaga.
Well, yeah, business cards do tend to show the person's name. That's sort of the point.
It's not the name that's unexpected. It's his job title.
His job? Oh! Chief Inspector Satoru Hozanaka, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau? Inspector, what on earth?
I have no idea. But let's face it, the police have a lot of power and influence if they're wielding it somehow here.
There we go.
If it's proven that these witnesses have been manipulated, I assure you the penalty will be severe.
Please, wait. Your Excellency. I hadn't heard about any of this. I swear to every Shinto god. I knew nothing.
And what does the defense have to say about all this? Huh?
Well, Your Excellency. No time to think. I'm just gonna have to close my eyes and shout out the first name that comes into my head. Besides the prosecution, the only person with the necessary influence to manipulate the witnesses is...
Yes!
Well, surely that would be Satoru Hosonaga-san.
Osanaga-san, the waiter who took the stand earlier.
Objection!
Poppycock! What possible reason would the waiter have to make these witnesses give false testimony? Not to mention the fact that even a head waiter could not possibly have that level of influence.
For once, I would agree with you. If, that is, the man truly were a waiter.
What? If he truly were?
Come on, Ryunosuke, time to hit this court with the truth. The truth about Satoru Hozanaga's real identity is proven by this evidence.
Yes!
The plan of the restaurant sketched by the man in question. Huh? Well, I agree it shows a great deal of attention to detail, but I'm not sure we can conclude anything.
Sorry, Your Excellency. That's the back of the card. It's the back of the back that's of interest.
I beg your pardon?
Or perhaps I should have said the front? Yeah, it's the front of the back of the card. That's where the telling detail is.
Would somebody please explain what this overexcited student is trying to say?
Hozanaga-san sketched the plan of the restaurant on the reverse side of his business card. The front of that business card reveals the man's in question's profession, his true profession.
The waiter's profession? Well, that's surely... Good gracious!
That's right, Your Excellency. The card reads Chief Inspector Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau.
What? The waiter is a police detective? I haven't heard any mention of this before. Why haven't I heard any mention of this before?
The Imperial Police Bureau has immense power. Absolute power as far as regular civilians are concerned. This is true, by the way. There's regular civilians in Japan in that era. There is no recourse against there's no objecting to police doing stuff. They acted with imperial authority, which didn't leave a lot of room for objection. Like, the whole idea of introducing... Japan has had courts in the past, and they've had a justice system, because everyone does, but the idea of, a Western-style justice system was new to them at the time. So, witnesses there in the stand. Was it, in fact, the waiter who gave you your orders? Was it he who told you not to mention that you'd seen the foreign gentlewoman at the scene? Inspector Hosanaga! I was worried something like this may happen. The moment you asked me to submit my sketch as evidence, I realized it was a possibility.
The court will take this plan and add it to the court record as evidence.
Oh, well...
Is there a problem? Hand the court plan over to the court officer at once.
Of course. Here you are. Yeah, I remember now. He did act strangely when the judge asked him to hand over his business card. I strive to carry out all investigations flawlessly. It's my guiding principle. But I let myself be distracted when I made that sketch. It was an unusually careless mistake.
So, you mean to say that you really are a detective?
But why would a detective be working as a restaurant waiter? Ah, of course, your salary must be terrible.
I was working undercover.
Undercover?
Yeah. There have been a series of incidents at the restaurant lately. In order to investigate, I decided to get a job there as a waiter, working undercover.
Incidents at the restaurant? What kinds of incidents?
That would be classified police information, which I'm not at liberty to divulge. However, I can state categorically that they are unrelated to this case of homicide.
Well, very well then, Inspector Zavaga. But you will elaborate on one point for the court.
Of course, Your Excellency.
We just heard new information from the two witnesses beside you. That at the time of the shooting, there was in fact another person present at the victim's table. If that is indeed true, clearly you would also have been aware of this person's presence, having served at the table in question. However, your testimony did not allude to this other diner, therefore I'm led to assume that in your professional capacity as a police officer, you require these witnesses to be in agreement. Would that be correct?
Correct, Your Excellency.
Unbelievable.
Huh. As I suspected.
As soon as I heard the gunshot, I ran out of the kitchen to see what had happened. The victim sat slumped in his chair, and beside him, gun in hand, stood the accused student. Sitting opposite the victim at the same table was a young lady, whom I guessed to be an English woman.
So, the truth comes out.
I immediately sealed off the restaurant and reported the incident to the Bureau. It was then that I received some special orders.
Special orders? You mean to say...
Remove the English woman from the scene at once. It was made clear that the English woman's presence at the restaurant was to be concealed. Those were my orders.
But what if this English woman was the killer?
I think it would be in everyone's best interests not to pursue that idea. The Empire views the friendly terms of its relationship with Britain more highly than anything at the moment. An Englishman has been murdered on our soil. To name an English woman as the primary suspect, well, without irrefutable evidence, that would be completely out of the question.
So, that's the reason for the disappearance of the Phantom Woman in this case.
But it's not right.
So again, Japan's troubled relationship with the outside world, and indeed also Japanese authoritarianism, of which there is a long history, comes into play. One possibility does spring to mind.
What do you mean, Kazuma?
Yume University is currently hosting a number of exchange students from Great Britain, and I'm fairly certain that one of them, studying in the medical faculty's research laboratory, is a young English woman.
What?
You're a shrewd man. I can see why you're the chosen candidate for the overseas study tour.
You mean...
When I removed the woman from the scene of the crime, I thought it prudent to check her identity first.
Then the court demands that you name the lady in question at once, Inspector.
The English woman sitting at the university professor's table was a certain Miss Jessael Brett. She's indeed a foreign student, studying in the research laboratory of Yume University's medical faculty.
Oh, what's happening here?
I admit that under orders from the police bureau, I erased all evidence of this lady's presence at the scene, and ordered these witnesses to make no mention of her in their testimonies. It must now be up to Your Excellency to decide how to deal with this situation.
Very well. My thoughts on the matter are as follows. Thus far, the case presented to the court has been underpinned by a particularly critical premise. Namely, that the victim was dining alone. However, as we've now discovered that this premise is false, it would be a desecration of our justice system to ignore the truth and give a ruling at this point.
Objection!
But Your Excellency, that would be missing the noon deadline of a ruling in order to send the telegraphic report to Great Britain. Our own government will surely be very displeased by such action.
Calm yourself, Counsel. I will not allow the government of our country or any other to influence the proceedings of my courtroom. Inspector Hosonaga,
Yes, sir.
you will locate this Giselle Brett and escort her to the courtroom with the utmost urgency.
Adams, Your Excellency.
But that means you'll be going against the special orders you were given from the police bureau.
As I said before, it is my guiding principle to carry out all investigations flawlessly.
So, it won't be a problem?
Nothing will get in my way.
Court will adjourn briefly. The prosecution must call the English student Giselle Brett to the witness stand. Do I make myself clear?
Yes! Your Excellency!
Good. Then we will have a 30-minute recess before reconvening.
And that, my friends, seems a good place to cut a first episode. An hour and a half. But it is a visual novel, so longer episodes is to be expected. Anyway, if you've enjoyed messing around in the world of the great Ace Attorney with me, you can hit the like, comment, and or subscribe buttons down below. I also have a Patreon, a merchandise store, and a tip jar, and memberships are available on this channel. And what they do is they give you early access to episodes of things that I upload to the channel. So if you want to see more episodes of Great Ace Attorney right now, memberships are available for that purpose. But if you're not in a position to be able to do that, or if you just don't want to, you absolutely do not have to. Thank you for watching. Remember to wear a mask, wash your hands, take the vaccine, whatever vaccine is frickin' necessary to end this goddamn pandemic, and try to act with solidarity towards those who are worse off than yourself.